I'm Jennifer Kross. I work for Ducks Unlimited. I'm an education biologist there, which means I talk about wetlands and waterfowl to people who request it. I'm new to the state Envirothon planning committee, so I'm on that too. So I'll be participating in making questions for the exam too. If you all enjoy writing questions, you can email those to me. Actually, here, let me put my email in the chat. All right. And yeah, if you guys have questions or something specific comes up related to ducks that you need clarification on, or wetlands or wildlife, I'm on the wildlife committee too, so I know mammals too, some. But yeah, if anything comes up, just email me and I'll see if I can answer that. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here that I'm going to show you all about, oops, we're going to talk about why, we're going to talk about some hunting things, and it's mainly duck ID, and I'm going to show you wings. I've got one little wing here that I can point out the different features on for you. Okay. PowerPoint. Okay. Just gonna. Okay, how's that look, Beth?
Looks good on this end.
Okay. All right. So waterfowl essentials. There we go. Okay, so in North Dakota, we have this really amazing landscape feature called the Prairie Pothole region. It's outlined there in tan. And then the red hash marks, that's the Missouri Coteau. So the Prairie Pothole region, and this, I don't know, this projection is weird because it doesn't show it that it goes up into Canada either, but it's all up in Canada. It doesn't just stop at the borderline there. But yeah, so the Prairie Pothole region is this landscape feature in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana that is full of wetlands and grasslands. And it was carved out by glaciers when they melted and receded from the landscape. And this is perfect habitat for ducks. The majority of our continent, of North America's waterfowl, nest in the Prairie Pothole region. Up to 75% of our waterfowl breeds there. So it's a really significant landscape for waterfowl. And we have a lot of it in North Dakota. And that's where a lot of our conservation efforts go, as far, related to Ducks Unlimited, but also for, the North Dakota Game and Fish and things like that. So this is kind of what a prairie pothole looks like. You've probably seen these when you're out driving and you see all these kind of small little depressions. They go dry a lot. Smaller wetlands only last a few months in the summer, and then some of the bigger ones don't go dry till the end of the summer. We have permanent wetlands too. So there's a variety of these. But yeah, the waterfowl really love this. There's all this nice dense grass for them to nest in, and then they bring their babies to the wetlands to feed them and to shelter them from predators and stuff. So this is just a like a deeper wetland. Oh, by the way, most of the slides have ducks on them. So I want you all to just kind of note and see if you can't identify some of the birds that you see, because we're going to do some quizzing later, or quizzing. I mean, there's going to be a Kahoot quiz, but as far as like my presentation, I'll show you a bunch of different birds. Okay. So yeah, so these are scaup right here, flying in there. But we do have these habitats in North Dakota that are deeper wetlands. We've got a couple different species of ducks. Some ducks like deeper water, some ducks like more shallow water. So we've got kind of a variety here for all that stuff. And then of course croplands. They're duck habitat. Ducks go out in the croplands and they feed. There's a lot of residual corn and wheat and stuff out in there that they enjoy here. All right. So why do we need to identify waterfowl? Well, a lot of it, has to do with hunting too, and abiding hunting bag limits and regulations. Identifying waterfowl through research and stuff like that, it helps maintain healthy water populations. You can impress your friends. And, there might be some other reasons. it's sometimes, people are naturally curious, and a lot of people like to identify birds, and birding is a big hobby for a lot of different people too. So kind of cool. All right. Just to kind of give you an example of what bag limits, what bag limits look like. So this is one of the reasons why it's important to be able to tell the difference between species of ducks, is because you have these bag limits that, you have to be able to identify the birds that you've shot. So this one that the dog has is a pintail. But yeah, so mallards, scaup, wood ducks, pintail, redheads, canvasbacks, mergansers. You need to know the difference between all those, and yeah, and kind of and geese too. So Canada geese, white fronted geese, those things. Sometimes they have bonus teal seasons in North Dakota, and across the United States too. But sometimes, so you need to know if you can harvest more teal or not, if you're identifying birds, and these shooting hours too. So there's a lot of all these, just to kind of give you an example of all the other regulations that go along with duck hunting. You have zones, and the Canada goose hunting zones are different than the duck zones here. And let's see, yeah, shooting hours. So there's a lot that goes into all this stuff. And you can find all this on the North Dakota Game and Fish website. The North Dakota Game and Fish department are the people who set bag limits and hunting regulations for the whole state. There's a lot of different rules and stuff that go along with that. So go to the Game and Fish website and kind of explore the hunting stuff. They've got a lot of other resources. So if you're hunting in North Dakota, you need a state license. So if you're 16 or older, and these are all kind of the other things, right? That go along with those stuff. And you can't go wrong with getting one of these hunting and trapping guides. Sometimes they're called proclamations too, and you can find that word the proclamations on the website. And the proclamations, they call them that. It's kind of a technical word, but it's basically like the rules and stuff. If you are 12 or older, you have to have a hunter safety class and be hunter safety certified to hunt in North Dakota. And most states around in the United States require a hunter safety class. There's this, well, as a side note, there's this really cool thing called an apprentice license that you can get in North Dakota. And that's mainly for like adults that don't have a hunter safety, but they have a friend who wants to take them duck hunting or something. They can get an apprentice license and they won't have to have a hunter safety class. They just have to be accompanied by a hunter who has a hunter safety class, who has had their hunter safety class. The federal duck stamp. So, okay, this is, I don't know, I'm just a fangirl of the federal duck stamp. We were supposed to have the competition in Bismarck last year, but I don't know, things fell through and they didn't have it because COVID, they claimed. So anyway, but we did a bunch of other things. But anyway, there's a huge competition across the nation to get your art on one of these duck stamps. And if you are 16 or older in the United States, you have to have a federal duck stamp to hunt. So, and that's for everybody in the United States. And this money goes to conservation, right? So the money that is raised through these stamps goes to improving federal wildlife refuges, national wildlife refuges. And then they also use some of this stamp money to fund habitat projects, so you can get grants and money kind of flowing into the states from these stamps to conserve habitat, conserve waterfowl habitat. So it's a great conservation tool, and yeah, and you can get them electronically now, which is cool if you're like, the morning or the night before you go duck hunting and you haven't gotten one yet. So anyway, need a federal duck stamp. Okay, so let's look at some keys to identifying waterfowl. Primarily the wings here. You can tell just from looking at the wings what species the bird is. It's if it's a male or a female, and if it was hatched that year, if it's a young bird or an older bird, a juvenile or an adult bird. And you can tell that by looking at the wings. And one of the main things that or a couple of the main parts, right? So these yellow arrows here, this is the top one is the shoulder part of the wing, or like they're called coverts, secondary coverts. And then that bottom yellow arrow is pointing at the speculum, or the secondary feathers. So with waterfowl, a lot of times you can see these bright colors, and all the wings are different. Let's see, this one is different. Um, but most of them have these different color cues on their wings. And then you can also look at their head. So a lot of times bill shape and head shape are keys. Sometimes you can identify a duck just by looking at the profile on the water, how high it's sitting in the water, how low it's sitting in the water, and then looking at its face there. So this one here is a green-winged teal, and this is a hooded merganser, and that wing there is a mallard wing. But yeah, so the hooded merganser, I mean, even like that sleek little pointy bill, that's for catching fish. They have this really distinct profile. Okay. All right, here are the feather groupings. Let me see, there's a duck body. The feather groupings on the wings that are going to help you identify it, right? So this is a mallard wing, and I just put this little graphic in here to show you where the rest of the duck goes. So these feathers that are closest to the body of the duck are tertial feathers, and then the secondary feathers, or the speculum it's called. Primary feathers are the long feathers that are farthest away from the duck's body. And then the shoulder area, or they're called secondary coverts. So these are kind of the main parts of the wings that you look at to determine the sex, the species, and age. This is a blue-winged teal, and I just wanted to kind of show you these different parts on a full duck rather than just the wings, so you can tell, like, okay, the tertials are closer to the body, where the body of the duck, and then those shoulder ones, you can kind of just see where they are relative to where the duck's head is and the duck's tail is. So yeah, the primaries are those long flight feathers that are really strong. Any questions about that? Okay. My dog is knocking at the door. All right, so keys to identifying. Become a duck watcher. It's really cool if you can get out and actually see birds in the wild. Right now, it's a terrible time of year to do that. And I guess the competition's in May, so April, I don't know, you may start seeing some in April. You'll see ducks in April and May, but it may not be the best weather to get out and see them. But if you can, like in the hand, when you have a duck in the hand, it's really more, it's easier to identify because you have them right there and you can see them. But a lot of times they're zipping by, or they're sitting on a pond and they're backlit and you can't see them. So you can really sometimes even tell what a species of duck is just by the flight pattern, which is pretty cool. Wood ducks, they have to fly in forested areas, so they have short little wings that kind of like help them do things like that, like go weaving it out of the trees. And pintails have kind of like longer, sleeker wings because they're flying up high and longer distances. So it's really neat if you get a chance to observe a bunch of different types of ducks to see their flight pattern. So, excuse me. So yeah, overall body shape, and then light and dark plumage. Like on so these two at the bottom here. I don't know. You can see my little pointer when I do this?
Yes.
Can you see that? Okay. So these guys right here, these are gadwall. And a lot of times with gadwall, you can see their white bellies, and then they have dark tails on the males, right? They have dark back tails. And this is a green winged teal right here. Or is that? Yeah. So just some keys. All right. So there's a difference between ducks and geese. And so, I mean, there's biologically defined things, but a lot of times you can look and see a thing and see something and tell if it's a duck or a goose. But ducks, especially, they have the sexes are different, right? The males and the females look different. They're dimorphic. So the males are these bright colors and the females are these more brown and more camouflage colors because they're the ones sitting on the nest and incubating eggs. And sorry, I just want to make sure I keep track of time. Um, and ducks are generally smaller and lighter than geese. They have shorter necks because they have fewer bones in their necks. Geese actually have more bones in their necks. That's one of the kind of internal biological differences. Ducks are omnivorous, meaning they eat plants and aquatic invertebrates. So they got a mixed diet, protein and plants, and they're not carnivores necessarily, but they are eating a lot of bugs. And then the females care for the nest and the young. So ducks, after they mate and the hen goes off to incubate her eggs, they split up. They don't stay together anymore. Geese are a little bit different. The sexes, the males and the females, they both look the same. So that means they're monomorphic plumage. They're larger and heavier than ducks. They have longer necks. They're mostly plant eaters, and both sexes take care of the nest and the young. So the males and the females tend the nest, and the males and the females raise the young. And geese are generally more aggressive than ducks. I don't know if you've ever come across an angry Canada goose, but they're not pleasant. And I think that's mostly because the males and the females are invested in the nest too. So anyway, both of them care for the nest and the young. All right, what are the two main categories of ducks? There's dabbling ducks. And these ducks are the ones that are kind of like sitting a little bit higher on the water. And when they eat, they stick their butts up in the air, like this guy here. They're basically like surface feeding on the water. And diving ducks, those guys, they're like, just like their title, they're diving down farther into the water. And when these dabbling ducks get up off the water, they just pop up. And the diving ducks, they're a little bit more clumsy and they have to get a running start. If you've ever seen coots kind of like skid across the water like this, it's kind of funny. But yeah, dabbling ducks need a running start. Or I'm sorry, diving ducks need a running start and the dabbling ducks just kind of pop up off the water. Their body shapes are a little bit different. So on the left here, this common eider, you can see the posture of this duck is different than our mallard friend over here, where their diving ducks, their legs are positioned farther back on their body for swimming and diving. And whereas the mallards are, they're not equipped for diving, they're equipped for dabbling. So and these are the diving ducks are usually the ones you see on deeper water. So that can also be a cue to identifying a duck too, like where is it? And that's always a consideration when you're birding. Where is this bird located? It can't be a whistling duck because those don't come to North Dakota, right? But yeah, bigger water divers, and then these dabbling ducks, they like the smaller water. Yeah. Okay. I think what I might do, okay, this is the quizzy portion. So, I think what I'm gonna do, I want to be able to get my chat up. Oops. Okay. You're not supposed to see that. Okay. All right. Somebody ping in the chat what this bird is. Beth, you'll have to tell me when somebody chimes in there. I can't really see it.
Hearing crickets.
Okay.
Oh, we got one from Chase, Canada goose.
Yes. Yep. Canada goose. You got it. Okay. Anybody know what this one is?
Chase says snow goose.
Yeah, Chase is our duck guy, or duck person, I should say.
Teresa is close behind.
Yay! You guys are going to do a Kahoot too, so. Oh, snow geese. Okay, so here's a note about snow geese. These guys are like champion migrators. They move around in these huge flocks, and you've probably seen them in the air and heard them fly over. They're really amazing and impressive when they get in these huge flocks. But anyway, they're pretty cool. All right. Anybody got an idea what this one is?
I know that one.
The background is a clue.
Maddie says wood duck.
Yay! Go Maddie! All right, here's a female. Like I said before, and wood ducks are cavity nesters, which means they nest in cavities in trees rather than on the ground. Most dabbling ducks nest on the ground. But yeah, and you can see the male. This is the male here, and the female, of course, she's not as brightly colored.
What part of North Dakota would you find the wood ducks in?
Yeah, a lot of time these aren't super common in North Dakota because we are prairie states, but like along rivers a lot of times, and in more like foresty river areas is where you find them. It's not uncommon for them to be hanging out with like other puddle ducks, but they don't like, they like the forested areas more than the open prairies. Okay. What's this one?
Chase says mallard.
Yeah.
Oh, Maddie said it first. Maddie got it first.
Go Maddie. Okay, so yeah, so here's the male. These are mallards. This is the male and the female. I don't know. I like showing these pictures of the male and the female because you can really see like the speculum and the wing. They have the same colors and features on them, but when you sometimes a lot of times when you hunt ducks later in the year, the males aren't in their breeding plumage anymore. They molt. And so they don't always look like this. And sometimes they're more brown and spotted and they look more like a female, and they call it an eclipse plumage. But for mallards, their bill is like the main indicator. The males will always have like I don't want to say clean, but like a yellow solid color bill. And the females will always have spots on their bill, kind of these dark spots. So if you can't tell, look at the bill. That's my go-to. All right. And here's some mallards. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Maddie is asking, sexual dimorphism, does this only happen in the spring?
Oh, no, I mean, it's year round. There are definite cues to tell male and female apart in that molt. So yeah, they're still dimorphic. They're just a little bit trickier to tell apart.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I like to show this flock picture because you can really see one of the things you can try and do when you're identifying birds like this in a group is try and cue in on the light and the dark. So if you can figure out like what is light and what is dark on the bird and which bird goes with which light and dark pattern, it makes it easier. So on these mallards, you can really see like this white line in their speculum here. And you can even see it on this female here too. So that's one. So like this bright white against a darker back part of the wing. That's one thing you can look at too. And these mallards, they also have kind of a distinct profile from other birds. I don't see any other. This may be a pintail here. Trying to see if there's any other. Oh, no. I see his green head. That's him right there. But anyway. All right. Oh, and here are the wings. So again, the body of the bird would be right here, and these are the tertial feathers. These are secondary feathers in the speculum. The primaries are here, these long feathers. So duck body would be here, and the primaries on the opposite side of the duck. and then this shoulder area or the secondary coverts right there. And mallards, the one thing, Maddie, that presents in females always is this white line right here. It extends into the tertial feathers on the female, and on the male it doesn't. So that's a good way that's what the people at the wing bee go by too a lot. So, all right. Anybody know what this one is?
Nothing yet. Ooh, Chase says pintail.
Yeah, this is a northern pintail. They're I mean, in the nerdy bird world, they like to say the whole name, right? Northern pintail. Just because there's white cheek pintails and there's Eurasian pintails. So there's other pintails in the world, but this is the one that we have in North America. And this is a female, and you can kind of see, oh yeah, she's got like this kind of white line at the back edge of her wing that you can see that mallards don't really have when they're flying. And these guys have a really distinct profile. They're really like, I don't know, I always call them pointy because it always seems like there's points. There's always points on them. Points in the nose and on the tail, pointy pintails, and on the tip of the wings. Anyway, all right. Anybody got any idea what this one is?
Gadwall?
Yeah, gadwall.
That was
These
Chase
are,
again.
oh, is that Chase?
Yep.
All right, good job. And again, with these guys, they the dark spots on this one is like a black butt. I like to call them black butts. But anyway, there's the male and the female in flight too. Yeah. And here are their wings. So this is the one that I have too. But a lot of times in the females, they, of course, they're not as brightly colored, right? So this kind of rusty red that's on this gadwall wing here, it doesn't appear as prominent on the female wings. But yeah. And then this white patch right here on the gadwall wing is one of the main identifiers for them. Anybody know what this one is?
American widgeon?
Yeah, American widgeon. Good job. These birds have kind of short, stocky little beaks. They feed a lot on vegetation, but one of the really prominent indicators for these guys in flight are this white patch right here on their wing. You can really see it. It's not, like I said, it's not as prominent on the females, but that's how it goes. The females are always a little more challenging to identify. They still have a little bit. So the males have this kind of bright green swatch right here, and the females only have like a little bit of it. And I've seen juvenile wings that don't have it at all. So that's not always a go-to, but most of the speculum here is black, and then they have this white shoulder on their wings. Anybody know what this one is?
Northern shoveler?
Yay! Yep. These guys are sometimes they call them spoonbills. They have like these wide, broad bills that look like a spoon.
Reminds me of a dinosaur.
Yeah. I've heard people call these Hollywoods too because they're smiling, but I don't call them that. And I don't know. I just always like this one of this little female here, just kind of stubby. These guys, they're white kind of indicator patches all the way around their neck. So, and then they have green heads like mallards do, but they don't have the same underside. So a lot of times you can tell, but with them flying in, like the mallards have more of a red patch here in the front. Oh, I don't have their wings. All right. Anybody know what this one is?
Chase again. Blue-winged teal.
Yeah. Yep. Blue-winged teal. These guys are actually, they have the same, their wing markings are pretty much the same as northern shovelers. Did I put a wing in here? No. They've got this blue on the shoulder and then this green on the back end and some white in there. The main difference between these, the shoveler wings and the blue-winged teal wings, is that the blue-winged teal are smaller. And then they've got some distinctive white on the primaries, but those are tricky. But the light and the dark on these, that white line on the front of the male is pretty prominent when you see them in the air and in different lighting too. So is that another, that's not a chat question, is it, Beth?
No, it was another person being admitted.
Oh, okay. All right. Anybody know what this one is?
Chase says green wing teal.
Yeah, yep, green wing teal. Yeah. So this is the smallest North American duck. They don't always show off that green speculum there on their wings when they're sitting around. But they look like, you know, they got this robin mask, I like to say, on their faces. They're tiny. All right, here's some diving ducks. These are ducks that are diving under the water to get food from the wetland or whatever they're sitting on. These guys have a really distinctive profile. And you can usually tell these when they're sitting on the water and they're backlit. Anybody have an idea what these are?
Canvasback?
Yep, canvasback. And like I said, they're divers, so they're gonna need to get like a running start on the water to get off the water. But you can see the bright white on their bellies when they're in flight. What about this one?
Redhead?
Yeah. Who was that?
Chase.
James again. Yep, these are redheads. The male in the back there, and then the female up in front. And yeah, these guys, the wings, they've got kind of white that goes from the speculum or from the body of the bird to the wingtips. These redheads. And these never mind, I forgot. Okay, anybody know what this one is?
Goldeneye?
Oh, that's a good guess. It does have like a golden eye. It's a ring-necked duck. Ring-necked. Ringed neck duck. Ring-necked. This bird is a diver. Again, I like to think, like, I always think of like the Nike swoosh that's right here on the side. It looks kind of like a Nike swoosh. And then the ring on their neck is hard to see because it's a dark color. But they have a ring bill, so I like to say ring bill, ring neck. That's how I remember it. Here they are in flight. They're like, these are diving ducks again, so these guys aren't as graceful flyers as some others, but yeah. Anybody know what this one is? You often see this one with hanging out on the same places as the other one, the ringneck duck.
Lesser scapular?
Scop, maybe, is what they were going for. Lesser scop? Yeah, there's a lesser and a greater scop. Sometimes they're pretty hard to tell apart. Like the greater has a bit of a green tinge on the feathers on their hat, and the lesser one has more of a purple tinge. So sometimes it's hard to tell, like from far away, which one it is. But yeah, this is the scop. I don't know. We kind of generally group them in a group of scop. But yeah, there they are again. On these, you can see like the white at the back of the wing and then the dark. And on the females, they do have a bit of like that half moon on the front of their bill. But and sometimes they're called blue bills because their bills are blue. But they don't have that same ring around their bill like the blue, like the ring neck duck does. Anybody got any? Does anyone have an idea about this one? I feel like I'm My words are running together.
Hooded merganser?
Yeah. These are fish eaters. They got those really pointy bills. And sometimes they don't always have their little hood up with the little white patch on there, but like this one's kind of got it relaxed there. This one is our ringneck friend back here. But yeah, here's our hooded mergansers. And then this is a common merganser. So they have the same pointy bill. These guys are just a little bit different head shape, different feathers. And they do this thing like loons do, where they let their babies ride on their back.
Cute.
All right. Okay, does anybody want to take a stab at what these ducks are in the air? And you can kind of key in on some of the black and white patterns, the light and the dark.
American widgeon?
Oh, the American widgeon actually has the white on the front edge of the wing. These are gadwall. The gadwall has the white on the back edge of the wing. So yeah, I like that. I mean, that was good. That's a good guess, just because, they both have white on the wings, just in different places. All right. Does anybody know what this one is? I've got light and dark showing here.
Mallard.
Yeah, that's a mallard. Yeah. Oh,
Chase is on it today with these ducks.
Yeah. Mallards have this cute little, the males do anyway, this cute little curly tail feather. I always think it's funny. Oh, this one's hard. You know what this one is?
Blue-winged teal?
Yeah, woo-hoo!
Maddie also said teal.
Yeah, nice. Oh, this is a good one. So, whoever said widgeon for the gadwall, that's your answer for this one. You can kind of see how they have the white on the front edge of the wing here, as opposed to that back edge. Front, back. That makes sense. I should have let you try and answer it. All right. So here was what you need to do. You need to become a duck watcher, learn how different ducks fly, and that's kind of through observation. So I hope that everybody can get a little bit of time before the competition to go out and just do some waterfowl observation or duck or birding in general, because it's kind of fun and it's kind of neat to see how, I mean, once you really know, like, oh yeah, that's how a mallard flies and that's how a pintail flies, it really helps with identifying birds. Light and dark patterns, and then look for the duck's profile and other color cues, like on the wings and stuff. So, okay. I'll get out of here and I'll stop presenting. And you guys can ask me questions.
So it looks like we have a question from Maddie. It says, does Ducks Unlimited own land for ducks to breed?
No. I mean, so the way conservation works, is we have a lot of partners that we work with, right? We work with the North Dakota Game and Fish and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And so we work on a lot of public lands. So Ducks Unlimited doesn't own that land. We help other organizations that own the land do conservation on their lands. So yeah, so those public organizations, and then we do a lot of private land stuff too with landowners, where we help them get into programs like farm bill programs that pay them for acres that they can retire, and just commit to conservation. And yeah, Ducks Unlimited does own a ranch in North Dakota. It was gifted to us, but that's kind of a unique situation, and we use it a lot for like demonstrations, and I should probably lead a tour for Envirothon people out there. It's a cool place. But yeah, no, we don't technically own any land. We do more of the conservation stuff, but or helping people that already own the land do conservation on their lands.
Awesome.
And then I see
We have
who
another
is
question.
oh,
Yeah, who
go
is
ahead.
the sponsor for Duck Unlimited's money?
You are. It's okay. So Ducks Unlimited, we get money from a lot of different places. So um we do get money through Pittman Robertson for some things, and that kind of funnels through the state. So the North Dakota Game and Fish, they'll get money from Pittman Robertson. So if you don't know, Pittman Robertson is the act that put a tax on weapons and ammunition to funnel directly into conservation. So it's basically, people who hunt and people who buy guns, they are contributing to conservation through a tax on those guns. So it's a great use of that money to put back into the land and grow it. So that money comes from the public, and then it goes to like North Dakota Game and Fish, and then North Dakota Game and Fish will have a project and they'll say, hey, Ducks Unlimited, come help us with this project. We've got this money to help pay for those activities. Ducks Unlimited also gets a lot of funding from foundations with um, with conservation priorities. We work a lot with Audubon, so a lot of times Audubon and Ducks Unlimited share money. There's another thing, and you know what? I want to do another learning session with you all about like where money for conservation comes from, because it comes from a lot of different places that you may not even think about. But Ducks Unlimited is a grassroots nonprofit organization. So a lot of our money does come for like our daily operations comes from the Ducks Unlimited banquets that you may have heard of or seen around. So there's different Ducks Unlimited chapters all around the United States. North Dakota has, I don't know, 20 or so. We've got a bunch. But uh they have their dinners and they raise money and bring in all this fundraising stuff, and all those dinners happen all over the United States, and that goes to Ducks Unlimited too. So it's kind of a combination of all that, federal money from state organizations, money from other nonprofits, and our grassroots funding.
Awesome. We have another question. It's asking, how has climate change affected duck populations in North Dakota?
Mm. Well, that's a good question. And I would say at this point where we're at with like how climate change is impacting things, I wouldn't ducks are migratory, and that helps to kind of mediate some of the climate change impacts that might impact them. So, we've had some kind of more extreme weather events in North Dakota, right? Drought and these kind of flooding events and these big snows. So when there's a drought in North Dakota, birds can fly to other places and find other places to nest. And that's, I think, what's been happening. What happened like last summer and the summer before is there were bigger populations of ducks that were in Canada and breeding in the northern parts of the prairie pothole region than there were in these southern parts, because they're getting more. So, I mean, I think that the impacts would be like kind of habitat changes and having them move around, but they're not and hopefully as the climate changes, we'll continue to get moisture and rain and stuff here, so those potholes fill up. But I think ducks have some kind of a pretty good advantage because they're migratory. What else can I don't know. It's a good question, and I don't know if we know all the answers yet about climate change and stuff, but you know, I would say populations move in and out of North Dakota as the climate extremes happen here. So
One question I have, so you named off a lot of different kinds of ducks that these students should be familiar with. And then you kind of alluded to where you might be able to find them. Are these ducks, do they kind of commingle with each other, or are certain parts of North Dakota more common for certain types of ducks, or how would you describe that?
yeah, you can find pretty much all of those dabbling ducks in North Dakota. We don't like there's not a ton of so more Okay, let me back up. Dabbling ducks are the primary genre of ducks that breed in North Dakota. We get diving duck populations that breed here too, but they don't they like bigger waters and deeper waters, excuse me, and so there's bigger concentrations of those guys other places. So Ducks Unlimited, we do a lot of research on ducks throughout the state, and they mostly find gadwall, blue-winged teal, mallards, of course, some green-winged teal, pintails, but I would say like gadwall and blue-winged teal and the mallards are what the dominant species are in this area, but you're going to see everything here too. Like it's not a place, it's a common place for ducks. We have something pretty special here. So
Are there any other questions? Oh, we got one. What percent of North American duck breeds in North Dakota or prairie potholes? What percentage of North American ducks breed in North Dakota or prairie potholes?
yeah, well, the prairie pothole region, so that includes what's in North Dakota and South Dakota and over in Montana and reaches up into Canada. The statistic there is up to 75% of North America's ducks breed in the prairie pothole region. But in North Dakota, I don't really know what that specific percentage is for North Dakota, for just North Dakota. I'm gonna write it down. I'll look it up. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Oh my gosh, you guys. There was one team last year that gave their presentation, and they were one of the top teams, and the person said, someone asked them a question and they said, I don't know the answer to that, but I will be happy to get back to you. And I thought that was so brilliant. I was like, oh, just judges love that stuff. Well, I guess I've never been a judge, but I loved that.
I feel like that's the motto of a conservationist.
Yeah, yeah. I'll get back to you on that.
I think it does take some integrity to admit when you don't know something, but then make the commitment to follow up on it and provide that information at a different time. Are there any other questions for Jennifer? If not, we can get into the Kahoot. Why do we still allow lead shot?
That's a good question. I think it's because there's still a demand for it. I don't know. It's I don't think that's a question I can answer. It's we know it's not good and we know it does bad things, and to the environment and wildlife. I ask myself that same question.
All right. Are there any other questions for Jennifer before we hop off for the day? So when we're looking at the state competition, do you imagine there will be some photos of ducks to identify, maybe some calls, or maybe the wing itself? You have to identify if it's a male or female or what kind of duck it is. I guess any speculation on that?
Yeah. I'd probably say, look, they're probably gonna be a wing. I'm not sure about the call things. I know that there's been technical difficulties in the past with doing the call identification, so I'm not sure. We haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, there's definitely probably going to be some of that hunting information, like being able to look stuff up, and yeah, you might get an image of a duck to ID. It'd be nice to have like actual ducks sitting on the water to identify, but we'll see. Yeah, I think definitely expect a wing. Expect some information from the Game and Fish on there, and yeah,
Awesome.
probably some information about the prairie pothole region is probably going to be an answer on your test. I don't know, because I cheerlead for the prairie pothole region all the time. So I want you to know what it is.
Maddie says, let's go see some pelicans.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, pelicans are amazing. Those guys have really cool flight patterns. If you ever get to see pelicans fly, it's like mesmerizing.
So I put some links in the chat for you all to see a little bit more about North Dakota Game and Fish hunting information, and then some duckwing ID and waterfowl ID from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Ducks Unlimited. We'll also be sending these out in an email on Friday, and the Kahoot in this presentation will be up on the website as well. So
And
that's everything.
yeah, and I think Andrea said she's gonna put the links in the YouTube video description of the recording.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, so definitely check out those links too. And there's YouTube videos that the Fish and Wildlife Service put together for Wing ID are pretty comprehensive. They're pretty good.
Good deal.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for your time and for listening. I appreciate it.
Okay, have a great day.